Hello there, and welcome back to what is the last episode ever of Video Game News Daily. I'm Matthew Bliss, who was your host, and look, this was a very short run of this podcast. If you found it, or if I recommended it to you and you've been enjoying it, then I really do appreciate your support. But this is my third attempt over the last 4 years to create a video game news podcast that I enjoy. And the utility is there. I know people enjoy getting news content from a space that they just go to grab it when they need it. And the problem is I just don't enjoy it anymore. And it's a really interesting thing. It's a really funny thing for something that's been part of my life for probably the last 25, 30 years, I want to say. But there's a couple of reasons why I don't want to continue doing this podcast. And I'm sure you're thinking, well, if it's not video game news, you could do something else. You could do reviews. You could just talk about video games generally. You seem to have some pretty good opinions and you know a lot about the space. The thing is, I'm currently rebuilding myself a little bit. And one of the things you learn when you start to become a podcasting professional like I am, I offer podcasting services to other podcasters who are looking to outsource production or help with getting their podcast on track or even started. Being part of podcasting as a discipline leaves you without a lot of space for other things with which to direct your attention. You're probably aware of the discussion about the availability of attention and the number of decisions we can make throughout the day. Well, it's the same with the number of disciplines that you operate over and the amount of time that you can set aside for the task switching between those disciplines. So being part of the podcasting industry and trying to offer even more in that space than I currently do, I am looking to expand what I do into much, much more. But I can't do that if every day or every couple of days I have to shift my brain space from podcasting and coaching and the way we work, cognitive biases, cognitive neuroscience, thinking about production and the technology, the distribution, listener behavior, and then shift over to gaming news, which I'm sure you figured out over the last couple of years if you've been in the gaming space that long. It tends to be quite repetitive, and it's just a fire hose of news all the time. The media cycle is incredibly thick and heavy, and my main goal with doing this kind of podcast was to disseminate what the information is and try to remove the need for you to scan through 12 articles just to get at the one piece of information that you want to know. And switching into that space and making sure I can play any number of video games to stay up to date with the industry and keep up with the pace. I'm already behind. We're all always behind. It just became, I started looking down the barrel of it again this time round, previously with Dead Drop Game News and now with Video Game News Daily, and saw that the space is getting incredibly large. It would occupy a inordinate amount of my time to be able to create a show like this, even with as little production effort required. It's not in the direction of my life for the next little while. At least for my own podcast. I am always open to being a guest on other people's video game podcasts. Haven't been on one for a while. I always do love talking about video games with other people. So if that's you listening to this right now and you'd like a guest on your show, then, hit me up. The email should be business@mbpod.com, though. Not hello@videogamenewsdaily.com or whatever I set it to. So it's not that video games sucks. It's not that this podcast sucks. It's not that it's not doing well. It's that I just can't split my attention and dedicate enough of my attention to the discipline of being a commentator and a critic of the video game news space. Which is it kind of sucks. In fairness, if it's a thing you enjoy, you would love to make it your day job. You know, if I had high hopes with me coming back into this podcast and saying, this is going to be successful this time. It's going to be achievable. I'm going to be able to do it every day, report on the news. More people will find it. And then as it grows, I will grow with it and it will become a successful podcast. But I think I have to take care of myself as the first thing. My aspirations for gaming have never been to make money off its fans, you know? I love the idea of congregating in community in the video game space, but it's never been a career I've looked at, except when I was maybe like 6 or 7, dreaming of that job at EB Games or whatever video game paraphernalia shop you may have thought of in your youth when you found video games for the first time. But now it's not where the focus of my time needs to be. So, yeah, that's the main reason why I need to leave it behind for the moment. It's important to know as well, though, that in this landscape of content creation, of individual vocality, where we can make our opinions known very easily through comments, through videos, through reels, through whatever medium we can think of, Substack, whatever. It's very easy to lose ourselves into creating opinions and saying stuff and moving too far beyond what video games were made to be. They're made to be entertainment, not meta entertainment, where we entertain ourselves by contributing to the internet with whatever we think about video games. And it's not to poo-poo the idea of people doing that, because I've seen and know a lot of people who do that very successfully and love doing it. But the thing I'd like to go back to is playing a video game for enjoyment. Selecting the video games that I enjoy the most to play and knowing that I don't have to form an opinion or keep up with the news about it or play it simply because it's in the zeitgeist. Prime example, Far Cry 6, I bought on a sale a couple of days ago. Been playing that. Pretty sure it's like 3 or 4 years old at this point. Having a great time. And I didn't feel any pressure to play it. I'm playing it because I would love to play it for myself. And look, I have any amount of opinions about video games that I'm always happy to talk about with anybody. But the pressure of feeling like I have to create content as a result of that, it comes with the territory. When you get empowered to be able to create any kind of content, video, screen cap, podcast, whatever it is, it's very easy to fall into the trap of making whatever it is part of your content, particularly if you enjoy it. So I want to go back to enjoying video games again. Playing old games that I know that I enjoy and would like to play again. New games that I need to explore. There's plenty on the list that, as a mid-30 going on 40-year-old, I won't have time to play anymore. Like, I still relish the idea of being able to sink 120 hours in a week into some Skyrim-like, or spend enough time with Elden Ring again to be able to, take a decent chunk out of that game. It's just not a reality anymore for time. But playing enough, just enough, that I can enjoy it for myself, I think that's enough of a goal for me at the moment with the video game space and the reason why I'm here in the first place. My enjoyment of video games has never died down. It's never gone away. But I don't think I need to make the content as a result of that anymore. So, yeah, those are the two reasons that I won't be making this podcast anymore. Now, if you're a listener who's not familiar with my work, then you're probably saying, well, I found this podcast and now you're taking it away from me. What am I meant to do now? Well, if you enjoy how I made this and you are a gaming content creator and would like to seek out a bit more about the content creation side, more so than the gaming side, I do offer I do have done a podcast for myself about podcasting. It's called ReThinking Podcasting. It's a bit more of a philosophical rethinking approach to podcasting in and of itself. And I think there's a lot to be said for the types of podcasts out there based around video games. There is a lot of ways to do it well, and there are a lot of ways to do it badly. I think it's a very saturated space at the moment. So if you're curious to think a little bit more deeply about how you approach your video game podcast, rethinkingpodcasting.com, go through the back catalogue, and more episodes of that podcast will be coming very shortly. If you want to learn a little bit more about my work, or maybe you have some extra budget and would like to outsource some of your podcast production to me, or even just have an hour-long conversation with me about the things that you'd like to explore and improve or learn about podcasting, mbpod.com, and you can see the previous podcasts that I've worked with. I also have a playlist on Spotify of podcasts, an assembly of podcasts that I've been a guest on. If you search for Matthew Bliss on Spotify, you should find that podcast playlist pretty easily. Now, the last thing to be said, I think, is to thank you. If you've listened this far and you haven't gone, it's not happening anymore, bye, podcast, see you never, then I appreciate you sticking around. I really do. I think too often when we create podcasts, we focus too much on the output and delivering exactly what we think our audience wants to listen to. And all too rarely do we acknowledge the people that listen every day, in this case, or every week, who consistently come by because they either enjoy the sound of your voice or the content or the approach, or they just want some semblance of consistency in their day where they know what time they need to grab the next episode of a thing and they can hear someone that they enjoy listening to talking about that thing. If you are any or all of the above, I want to thank you for listening to this podcast for as long as it's been in existence. Podcasting seems like a simple success metric where all you have to do is create the podcast and then thousands of people flock to you. But it's not that simple. It really isn't. And so every single person that listens to any one of the shows that I create or contribute to, I appreciate with all my heart and all of my mind. All of it. So if you haven't been thanked yet today, this is your thanks from the guy who's going to be disappearing from your feed. But of course, as I said, if you want to stay and keep in touch with me, search for my name on LinkedIn. You should be able to find me pretty easily. I think I'm on Facebook somewhere. Direct email, business@mbpod.com, rethinkingpodcasting.com for the podcast, mbpod.com for my work. And thanks again for being with me on this admittedly very short journey. Enjoy the rest of your week. Keep playing video games, and I'll see you next time.